In the summer of 1950, over lunch at the Los Alamos National Laboratory, the physicist Enrico Fermi posed a direct physical question to his colleagues. The Milky Way galaxy contains between 100 billion and 400 billion stars. It spans a physical diameter of roughly 100,000 light-years. The universe is 13.8 billion years old, while our Sun and Earth formed roughly 4.54 billion years ago. If intelligent life develops on even a minute fraction of rocky planets orbiting Sun-like stars, and if those technological species move through space at speeds far below the speed of light, say 1,000th of the speed of light or 300 kilometers per second, they could cross the entire galactic disk in 100 million years. 100 million years is less than 1% of the age of our galaxy. It is less than half the time it takes for our solar system to complete a single orbit around the galactic center. By simple physical calculation, alien civilization should have traversed the Milky Way multiple times over. Yet, when we measure the sky across the electromagnetic spectrum, we detect an absolute silence. To understand why that radio silence exists, we have to start at the beginning of cosmic stellar evolution. Look at the periodic table. Immediately following the Big Bang, 13.8 billion years ago, the universe contained only hydrogen, helium, and a tiny trace of lithium. There was no carbon for organic chemistry. There was no oxygen for liquid water. There was no silicon or iron to construct rocky planetary mantles or dense metallic cores. The first generation of stars, population 3 stars, condensed out of giant primordial gas clouds containing only those light elements. Those stars were massive, burning through their nuclear fuel at extreme temperatures before collapsing in violent supernova explosions. Inside those ancient stellar interiors, nuclear fusion converted hydrogen and helium into heavier atomic elements through the proton-proton chain, the CNO cycle, and the triple alpha process. Supernovae scattered those heavy atomic nuclei back into interstellar space, enriching giant molecular gas clouds across millions of cubic light-years. Astronomers quantify this chemical buildup using stellar metallicity, which measures the abundance of elements heavier than helium relative to hydrogen. It required several generations of stellar birth, nuclear fusion, and explosive death before interstellar gas clouds reached a metallicity threshold capable of forming terrestrial rocky planets. Our Sun is a population 1 star that formed 4.54 billion years ago from a cloud enriched by billions of years of earlier stellar processing. That tells us something fundamental about cosmic timescales. Life couldn't have emerged everywhere immediately after the Big Bang. The universe spent nearly 9 billion years simply forging the physical raw materials necessary to assemble a single molecule of DNA. Data from the Kepler Space Telescope, launched in 2009, gives us an empirical measurement of how many planets exist today. Kepler observed over 150,000 stars simultaneously, measuring minute reductions in optical brightness as orbiting exoplanets passed in front of their stellar disks. Analysis of that observational dataset shows that planetary systems are a standard consequence of star formation. Nearly every star in the Milky Way hosts planets. Roughly 20% of G-type Sun-like stars possess Earth-sized planets orbiting within their circumstellar habitable zone. We can define that habitable zone strictly using thermal equilibrium physics. The temperature of a planet is set by the balance between absorbed stellar radiation and emitted thermal energy. The energy flux arriving at a distance from a star with a given luminosity drops according to the inverse square law. The energy flux equals the luminosity divided by 4 pi times the distance squared. If a planet reflects a fraction of that incoming light back into space, its bond albedo, it absorbs the remaining fraction, equating the absorbed solar power to the thermal energy radiated away as a black body yields the planet's equilibrium temperature. That temperature is given by the luminosity times 1 minus the albedo divided by 16p times the Stefan-Boltzmann constant times the distance squared, all raised to the 1/4 power. The Stefan-Boltzmann constant is 5.67 times 10 to the negative 8 watts per square meter per Kelvin to the 4th power. For liquid water to remain stable on a planet's surface under atmospheric pressure, that calculated temperature must fall between 273 and 373 kelvins. In our galaxy alone, that simple radiative calculation yields tens of billions of candidate worlds. Actually, let's step back for a moment. To really see why having tens of billions of warm, rocky planets doesn't guarantee a galaxy filled with radio chatter, we have to look at what the atoms themselves are doing at the biological level. Living systems do not violate physical law. Life is a localized thermodynamic system that maintains low internal entropy by consuming free energy from its environment, driving up the total entropy of the surroundings in complete accordance with the second law of thermodynamics, which states that total entropy change must be greater than or equal to zero. 4 billion years ago, on the floor of Earth's early oceans, hydrothermal vents provided non-equilibrium chemical energy gradients. Alkaline fluids containing dissolved molecular hydrogen met acidic ocean water containing dissolved carbon dioxide across thin inorganic walls composed of iron sulfide minerals. That chemical separation generated a continuous proton motive force across a membrane thickness of just a few nanometers, creating an electrochemical potential difference of 300 millivolts. That electrical potential drove the reduction of carbon dioxide into simple organic molecules, forming the metabolic foundations for the first single-celled prokaryotic organisms. Simple bacterial life appeared on Earth relatively quickly, within a few 100 million years of liquid water stabilizing on the crust. That rapid appearance suggests that basic cellular chemistry might be a common outcome wherever suitable thermodynamic gradients exist on rocky planets. Look at the terrestrial fossil record after that initial emergence. For almost 2 billion years, more than 40% of Earth's total existence, life remained strictly prokaryotic. Unicellular bacteria and archaea populated the oceans, reproducing by binary fission without ever forming complex multicellular bodies. Then, roughly 1.8 billion years ago, an improbable biological interaction occurred. An archaeal host cell engulfed an aerobic alpha proteobacterium. Rather than breaking down the ingested cell for nutrients, the host maintained it in a stable endosymbiotic relationship. That ingested bacterium evolved into the modern mitochondrion. Endosymbiosis provided the host cell with an internal power plant, increasing the available energy per gene by roughly 10,000 times compared to single-celled bacteria. That sudden jump in available bioenergetic capacity allowed eukaryotic cells to enlarge their genomes, synthesize complex proteins, and construct the specialized tissues of multicellular organisms. Without mitochondria, simple single-celled life on Earth could never have generated the energy required to support brain structures or technological intelligence. Here we hit a fundamental boundary in our understanding of planetary biology. We don't know whether endosymbiosis is an inevitable evolutionary transition or a freak physical collision that happened once on Earth and nowhere else in the galaxy. If endosymbiosis requires extraordinary rare biological circumstances, then the Milky Way might be teeming with simple bacterial mats while remaining completely devoid of complex conscious organisms. We have a sample size of one planet. We cannot extrapolate universal statistical probabilities from a single, isolated historical sequence. Suppose, however, that complex life does evolve on other worlds and develops technological tools capable of generating electromagnetic signals. Why haven't our observational instruments detected them? We must examine how electromagnetic radiation spreads through space. In 1960, Frank Drake conducted Project Ozma at the Green Bank Observatory in West Virginia, pointing an 85-foot radio dish at the nearby stars Tau Ceti and Epsilon Eridani. Drake tuned his receiver to 1.420 GHz, corresponding to a wavelength of 21 centimeters. That frequency represents the hyperfine transition of neutral hydrogen, where an electron flips its spin relative to the proton nucleus. Radio astronomers call this region of the spectrum the waterhole, bounded by the 21 centimeter neutral hydrogen line and the 18 centimeter hydroxyl line. It is a quiet band in the radio spectrum where natural background noise from cosmic dust, planetary atmospheres, and galactic synchrotrons reaches a minimum. If a civilization wanted to broadcast an intentional signal across light years, physics identifies 1.420 GHz as an efficient channel. But human civilization doesn't broadcast high-power directed signals into deep space. Our commercial television broadcasts, cellular networks, and communication relays leak non-directional electromagnetic radiation into space at power levels typically between 10 and 100 kilowatts. The inverse square law dictates that energy drops off rapidly with distance. The received power flux density at a distance from an omnidirectional transmitter of a given power is the power, divided by 4 pi times the distance squared. By the time a 100 kilowatt human television broadcast reaches Proxima Centauri, just 4.2 light-years away, its power density drops below 10 to the negative 30 watts per square meter. That signal is far beneath the thermal radio noise emitted by the cosmic microwave background at 2.725 kelvins. Unless an alien species builds a continuous gigawatt-scale directed radio beam pointed straight at Earth, our radio observatories, such as the Fast Dish in Guizhou or the Square Kilometre Array, cannot distinguish their leakage emissions from the background thermal radiation of space. There is another physical barrier that is even more restrictive than spatial distance: time itself. Human technology has possessed radio capabilities for roughly 130 years, starting with Guglielmo Marconi's experiments in the 1890s. We have launched interplanetary space probes for less than 70 years. On a cosmological scale, 130 years is an unmeasurably brief moment. The Milky Way has been capable of hosting habitable worlds for roughly 8 billion years. If a technological civilization lasts for 1,000 years before succumbing to planetary resource exhaustion, self-destruction, or environmental change, its signal output occupies a fraction of cosmic time, equal to 1,000 divided by 8 billion, or 1/8 millionth of the galaxy's habitability period. If 10,000 technological civilizations have emerged throughout galactic history, each lasting 1,000 years, the probability of any 2 civilizations transmitting simultaneously in the same region of space is extremely small. Their operational periods are separated by millions of years. They flare up and extinguish like single fireflies in a vast dark forest, never overlapping in time. Consider the physical requirements of physical spaceflight. Accelerating a payload of mass to a velocity equal to 10% of the speed of light, 30,000 kilometers per second, requires a kinetic energy defined by relativistic mechanics. That kinetic energy equals the Lorentz factor -1 times the mass times the speed of light squared. The Lorentz factor is 1 divided by the square root of 1 minus the velocity squared divided by the speed of light squared. For a light probe weighing 1,000 kilograms, reaching 10% of the speed of light requires roughly 4.5 times 10 to the 17 joules of energy. That matches the entire energy consumption of human industrial infrastructure over several weeks, concentrated into a single object. If you scale that vehicle up to carry a human crew or heavy machinery, the mass increases to tens of thousands of metric tons, pushing the energy requirement beyond the total annual energy generation of our planet. Even if a civilization captures the complete energy output of its host star, 3.8 times 10 to the 26 watts for a G-type star like the Sun, by building swarms of solar harvesters, physical matter presents a destructive challenge during transit. The interstellar medium is not empty. It contains roughly 1 hydrogen atom per cubic centimeter, along with microscopic dust particles made of silicates and carbon compounds. At 10% of the speed of light, impact with a dust grain weighing less than a milligram delivers kinetic energy equivalent to detonating several kilograms of high explosive against the hull. Attenuation, erosion, and atomic displacement caused by constant impact with ambient interstellar hydrogen atoms present structural limits that material science cannot bypass without massive energy expenditure for shielding. Look at how we are currently attempting to detect atmospheric evidence of alien life without interstellar travel. The James Webb Space Telescope uses transmission spectroscopy to analyze exoplanets as they pass in front of their parent stars. As stellar photons pass through the thin outer envelope of an exoplanet's atmosphere, specific gas molecules absorb precise quantum frequencies of light. Electrons and molecular bonds undergo quantum energy level transitions, absorbing infrared light at wavelengths characteristic of molecules such as carbon dioxide, methane, water vapor, and ozone. If we observe an exoplanet atmosphere containing simultaneous high concentrations of methane and oxygen, gases that rapidly react with each other and destroy one another under normal chemical equilibrium, we have strong spectroscopic evidence of an active biological system constantly pumping those gases into the atmosphere. Yet, our observational reach remains tightly constrained by physical optics and distance. Current telescopes can only perform detailed atmospheric spectroscopy on exoplanets within a few hundred light-years of Earth. Beyond that spatial radius, stellar light completely overwhelms the faint atmospheric signal, leaving the rest of our galaxy unexamined by direct chemical measurement. When we assemble all these physical observations, the delayed enrichment of galactic metallicity, the exact thermal parameters required for surface liquid water, the biological hurdle of endosymbiosis, the physical decay of signals via the inverse square law, the relativistic energy costs of propulsion, and the temporal non-overlap of technological lifetimes, the physical reality becomes direct and clear. We are not necessarily alone in the totality of space, but we are isolated by the sheer geometry of space-time. Every carbon atom in your cells, every iron atom in your blood was forged in the nuclear core of an ancient star that exploded billions of years ago. Those atoms drifted across light years, bound together under gravity to form our Sun and Earth, and organized into biological structures that can measure the light of distant galaxies and understand the laws of quantum mechanics and relativity. Humanity represents a rare physical system where the universe has organized matter to observe and comprehend its own mechanics. That reality carries direct physical weight. Our technological existence is a fragile, localized event in cosmic time. If we allow our civilization to collapse through mismanagement of our physical resources or planetary systems, that conscious local observer disappears, and it may be hundreds of millions of years before another collection of atoms in this galaxy develops the ability to ask the same questions.